Hey, this is Marco with Luso Overland, and we're going to install the CGZ third row storage system for Gen 2 and 2.5 Monteros in this video. That's 1992 to 2000. This one happens to be in 98, but they're all the same. The first thing that we need to do is remove the third row seats. Each seat has four 12mm bolts. As you can see, two of them on the top are accessible quite easily when the seat is folded down, and the two on the bottom are very easily accessible when the seat is folded up. Next, we're going to install the bottom brackets. So you'll get two bottom brackets, and they are identical. It doesn't matter what side you put them on. And you're going to get a hardware kit. You're going to use your long bolts with the large washers. So that's going to go through like that. And that is going to allow you to mount those bottom brackets down into these holes. Before you put the bracket on though, you're going to need to put these plastic bushings. So you're going to use 4 of them like that. It's kind of tricky because this one's on a slope, so you'll just have to kind of hold it. But this is basically going to bolt on right like that. So again, it's going to go bolt with the large washer through the bracket, through the plastic bushing, and into the bolt hole on all 4 of these on both sides. So that's gonna look like that when you're done. These are 13mm bolts, and I haven't gone crazy with tightening them down. They're just barely tight. We'll tighten them down once everything is done. Now it's time to install the upper window panels. These are side specific. You'll see marked R for right and L for left. You're gonna want to come up here, pull back this rubber cover to reveal a screw on either side of your upper grab handles. So go ahead and remove the grab handle, remove these 2 screws with either a screwdriver or an 8mm socket. All right, so here is the upper grab handle removed. And also inside your hardware kit is the following M5 hardware, which includes these smaller plastic bushings. And they're basically replicating this same exact setup that the grab handles had. So you're going to use an M5 bolt with an M5 washer, and it's going to go through this top portion here on the bracket, and then you're going to put your plastic bushing in there, and it's going to go through and mount to the vehicle. So you're going to want to carefully feed the panel behind the bottom panel. They can just rest on the window there, and then on the top you can see here you got bolt, washer through the panel, through the plastic bushing, and into the hole in the body. These you're just going to do up loosely for now. And another thing I should mention is that these bolts here are hex bolts. They take a 4mm hex bit. You need to make sure that that plastic bushing seats into the cutout of the factory panel, that it's not pushing on the factory panel, that it's like inside of the cutout. If you like, you can also reinstall your grab handle rather than just leaving it plain like that. Just use the longer bolts that the CGZ panels come with. The bushings doesn't matter. You could use the factory ones or the replacement ones. So yeah, if you wanted to have a handle there, you could. So this is what it would look like without, and that's what it would look like if you put the handle back. So as you can see here, I've got the panel. These are just loosely attached, so I've got adjustability in the panel. So you're going to want to get it to where you like it, either more forward or more back. And then on the bottom, you've got all of these vertical slots, and they're going to line up with the horizontal slots on the top panel as you move it around. So set it where you like it, and then to secure it, you're going to use the larger hex bolts. These are 6mm with a washer on the front side, and on the back side you're going to feed in another washer and a nut, and this is a 13mm nut. It's pretty easy on this rear side because you've got this cutout that you can hold it from behind while you get it started. This one's a little harder because it's a little farther away from a cutout, but you know, if you need assistance, you could use a 13mm wrench or a magnet tool, but I mean, I can reach it with my fingers there. If you have a rear slider window, you can, depending on how you situate the top panel, you can still open up your slider from inside, and then that makes getting that nut in place from the outside much easier. Then once you've got everything bolted in place, you can go ahead and tighten all 8 bolts down. One thing I do want to point out is, just be careful when you're feeding in the panel, when you're getting a wrench behind here. You've got your glass window, you don't want to accidentally crack it or break it. The hardware, you're going to want to check that periodically, make sure that no nuts are coming loose. If you want to, it would not be a bad idea to put some Loctite on these bolts. Really wouldn't need to. I wouldn't be too worried about the ones that are captured, like the top 2 or the bottom 4. I wouldn't be too worried about those, but these 2 where you have the nut on the back side, I think some Loctite would be a good call on those. And again, depending on exactly where you position this window panel, you can still get to your slider. Now it is a little bit trickier. You have to feed it through each one of these squares one at a time, and then do the same thing when you close it, but it is possible. I should also mention, in case you're wondering, these panels we've had for a long time. We've had these for like a year at another Montero, and so that's why there's more scratches and wear marks on these brackets. So now we're going to move on to installing the horizontal shelf. The upper horizontal shelf can be used independently of the side window panels. So if you have the side window panels like we just installed in this video, well, then just keep going and you're going to feel right at home. If you're just joining us because you only purchased an upper horizontal shelf, that's totally fine. What you're going to find up here is going to look a little different. Obviously, you're going to find one of these grab handles. You're just going to pop off these little rubber coverings to expose the screws, and you're going to remove those 2 screws so that this handle comes out. These are going to be the upper panels that you use to attach the shelf. They are not side specific. You can use them on either side. And in your hardware kit, you're going to get the small plastic bushings and the 5mm bolts and washers. And this is how you're going to want to set up your upper bracket, with the side with 1 hole at the top and the one with 3 holes at the bottom. You're going to put the bolt and the washer through the front, and then it's going to behind it. In this case, we have the side window panel, so then it's going to go through that. Then you're going to put that white plastic bushing behind it and make sure that it is feeding into the cutout in the factory plastic interior panel. And then you're going to repeat that process on this side, and then you can snug them up. So it's a little easier if you don't have the window panel, one less thing to worry about, but still quite easy to do. If you like the looks of reinstalling the factory grab handle, you can. You would just need to be sure to use the longer bolt that the CGZ kit comes with. The bushing doesn't matter. You could use the factory one or the new one. I think I'm going to install it like that. It gives me one more place if I need to bungee something too. All right, and now it's time to install the horizontal shelf. One thing I want to start by pointing out is that this does have a front and a rear. The front has bolt holes along that forward edge right there. And that's going to be for the cargo barrier that we install in the last step. This is going to be easier if you have a buddy to help you, so that someone can hold up the shelf while you install the hardware. You can see that the shelf needs to be on the outside of the vertical bracket, and then you're going to take your hardware. It's the smaller bolts in your hardware kit. They are hex 5mm on the head, and the back side secures with a 10mm nut. So you're going to go bolt, washer, washer, bolt. And the front cargo barrier, if you're going to be installing that, it only clears the roof height if you're on the top hole of the horizontal shelf, so that it gives you more height. If you put it on the bottom hole, there won't be quite enough distance between the ceiling and the shelf for the front cargo barrier to install. You have 4 different positions that you can choose from horizontally. As you can see, I've got the shelf mounted as far rearward as it can go, And that'll give you the most headroom for your second row passengers. They can recline their seat farther back without risking hitting their heads on the front of the shelf. Lastly, if you want to use the forward cargo barrier, you affix it to the horizontal shelf with the 4 bolts as shown. You put the cargo barrier on top of the horizontal shelf, and you put this bolt through it with a washer, then a washer and a nut. The bolt takes a 6mm hex and the nut a 13mm wrench. It's a bit fiddly to get into here, so it's actually easier if you plan on using the forward cargo barrier to just attach it to the shelf and then lift that entire assembly up into place before bolting it on to these brackets. This completes the installation of both the side window panels and the upper shelf. You can get both of these products at lusaoverland.com. Also in the description we have links to a bunch of accessories that match up well with these panels, like different MOLLE pouches, fire extinguishers, quick fist mounts, things like that to help you utilize these panels for storage. Thanks so much for watching.